What's going on, fellow web developers? My name is Tyler Potts, and in today's video we're going to be building this to-do list application that uses local storage and is built using Vue JS. Now, we've built this exact same to-do app in vanilla JavaScript. You can find the actual video linked down below if you want to watch that one. So let me just show you what we can do here. So we can give it a name. We can then click off this, and if we refresh the page, this will be saved because it's stored in local storage. Another thing we do is add a to-do. So let's just say make a video. And then we can select if it's business or personal. Let's just select business and hit add to do. And there you go, you see make a video. We can then also say we can select personal and change this from make a video to eat lunch with Steve. And there you go, you see we've got a personal one here. If we refresh the page, these will be consistent. We can also tick this checklist and refresh page, and you'll see this is also consistent. We can also edit these, make a YouTube video, and if we refresh again, it all saves as you update and change things, which is really awesome. We can say, okay, we've done this, let's just delete it now so we don't have it. Refresh, and there you go, you can see it's working as expected. Everything works really nice, and this is what we're going to be building in today's video. So without further ado, let's get into the code. Okay guys, so as you can see here, we have an empty folder inside of Visual Studio Code. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up my terminal, and we're going to be using feet to actually create our boilerplate, our starting code. So we're going to say npm create feet at latest. Then we're going to give it a name. I'm just going to put dot to say create it in the current directory. I'm going to do double hash and then template, and I'm going to sell it as Vue, which is going to use just a Vue JS version. So let's hit enter, and then it's going to ask for a package name. We're going to say to do app, hit enter, and then we can run npm install to actually install the dependencies. Now while that's doing that, let me just quickly go into our tutorial, into our source, and paste a CSS file. Now this CSS you can find in the GitHub link below, or if you want to watch me actually code all the CSS out and explain it, you can head over to the JavaScript version of this tutorial and check it out. I don't want to rewrite because it takes a long time to rewrite the CSS, so I decided that it would be easier just to paste it. Let me just quickly show you this inside of here, and I'll slowly scroll down there. As you can see, there's quite a bit of code. It's over 100 odd lines, but it's very straightforward. And if you do want to get this code, you can get it in the GitHub link below, or watch the JavaScript video, which will also be linked down below. If you want to learn it, how to do it in 2 different ways, you can check it out down there. And there you go, that's everything in this file. So with that out of the way, let's go into, well, let's check if that's ran. That has ran. We can now say npm run def and just hit run. And then if we just refresh over on the right here, you'll see we are given this just plain template here. So let's remove all that code. Let's go to app.vue. Actually, let's go to main first, and let's just import our main.css file. You can see that's now changed the way this looks. And close that. We're done with that. We can delete this assets folder. We can delete the components folder. We can delete everything in there, in here, and this whole style tag because we're using a CSS file. And there you go. We could just put something in here saying like hello world, obviously wrap this in a tag. And there you go, that's working, and you can see that's changing as we go. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start off by just adding in some markup. So we want to import some JavaScript. So we want to import, and we're going to say ref on mounted and computed. Also, we want to get watch from Vue. So these are different things you can use with the Composition API in Vue JS. We've got our reference, which is basically how we're going to handle our state. We've got on mounted, which is going to be used for when we first render the page or render the component. We're going to call this here, and this is what we're going to use to get our local storage out of local storage. We're then going to use computed because we want to have things in order. So we're going to have a to-dos array, but then we're going to have a computed value, which is going to be a A to B or A to C, sorry, computed list rather than having, or not A to C, it'll be done by date, sorry. So it'll be ordered by the date it was created. And then we'll also have a watch file here, which will basically watch for any changes in our references. And if they update, it'll update our local storage. So let's start off with creating a few references. So we're going to say to-dos is equal to a empty array. We're then going to say to-dos const name, sorry, is equal to an empty string. We're then going to have an input, which is going to be our content, and we're going to set that to an empty string. So that's going to be the content we enter inside of our actual input field. We're going to say input, and we're going to give it a category. And this is also just going to be, we're going to set this to null, because it's going to be null by default. We then want our to-dos underscore asynchronous, or ascending, sorry, not asynchronous. And what we're going to do is say array to-dos.value.sort, and then we're going to sort A, B, and then we're going to say, break this into its own little function here, and we're just going to return b.createdAt minus a.createdAt, and that should, oh, cancel, save, that should give us back a asynchronous or asynchronous ascending a list by date. So it should show the latest up front and the oldest afterwards. Or I might be wrong and I need to flip B and A around, but we'll find out in a moment. Now we've done the filtering, we next want to, let's start up with our markups. Let's actually get some things displaying on the page. So inside of our template, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a main tag with the class of app. And then inside of here, we're going to have a greeting, wow, I've got caps lock on, it will not turn off. We want a section called greeting. And inside of here, we're going to have a h2 with the class of title, which is actually going to be it's going to say what's up, comma, and then we're going to pass in an input field. It's going to be of type text. We're going to give it a placeholder of name here, and we're going to say fee model is going to be equal to name, which is something we set up here. So you can see here with nothing in there, it's there, but we can then enter our own name and that should save. However, it's not going to save. As we refresh, you can see it's now removed and it's no longer there, which is kind of annoying. We kind of want it to be persistent. So what we want to do is we want to call this watch function. We're going to say name, and then we're going to say new value. We don't need the old value for this. And we're going to go in here and we can either console log new value, or we can say LocalStorage.setItemName, and we're going to set the name equal to the new value. So what this is going to do is we're going to be watching this name. If this changes, we're going to get the new value it's changed to, and we're going to set our local storage to name. But this still isn't going to work. So let's say here we're going to set my name to Tyler, and we're going to refresh. Nothing's going to happen. If we open up our console and go to application, you can see name has been set to Tyler. We also have to-dos there, which we can delete. So you can see my name has been set to Tyler. We could also change it to like Steve. We need to save this side, sorry. I don't know what happened there. So Steve, you can see that's now changed to Steve. We could change it to Tyler. But when we refresh, it will not be set because we're not actually pulling it from the local storage. So to do that, we're going to call on mounted. We're going to create an arrow function. And in here, we're just going to say name.value is equal to LocalStorage.getItemName. Then we're going to say else an empty string. Hit save, and there you go. You can see that's set. Now, if we delete this and we refresh, you can see we get nothing there, and then we can enter our name, and it is saved. And there you go. That is all we need to do to actually save the name. We can also do a similar thing with the to-dos, but I'll show you that once we get there. Let's get back down to the markup. So underneath this section, we need a place to actually create a to-do. So we're going to create a create to-do section. We're then going to have a h3, and this is going to say create a to-do. And there you go, you can see that there. We could probably make that block capitals. That looks a lot better. And then under this, we're going to create a form, which is going to have an @submit binds to it. So we're going to say at submit. So when we submit this, we're going to prevent default, and we're going to call add to do, which we don't currently have. So let's just create a constant called add to do and set it just to an empty function for now. We'll deal with that a bit later. So underneath our form, let's create a H4 that just says what's on your to-do list, question mark. So this is where we're going to add that. We don't want an input field. Again, just an input field, if it will want to work. An input field of type text. We're then going to give it a placeholder, which is going to set to e.g make a video. And then we want to set the fee model to be equal to input content. So now we have this, and as we enter this, we can actually see this changing in our input content section. So anytime we change this, our input is now bound, two-way bounded to this. So this is now set. So let's just remove that, and let's just make this more readable. So let's break these down onto these attributes down onto separate lines here. Give that one of those, and there you go. So that's now easier to read. Now, underneath this section, we want another H4, and this is going to say pick a category. So we're going to have a category you can actually select. So we have our to-do, so you could say make a video. And then in the categories, you want to know if this is a business, is this for our business, or is this just a personal to-do? So to do that, we're going to create a div with the class of options. Inside of this, we're going to have two labels. They're not going to have force on them. They don't need it, because we're going to have our inputs inside of them, and we're going to call this of type radio. We need a name, and this is going to be called category. We do not need the ID, although it probably would be useful to have one in these cases, but for this one, we do not. Actually, you know what, let's just give them the ID of category 1, because I think I styled the ID, and we'll have enough one of category 2 in a minute. We're then going to have the value to be business. Oh, business. That's the one. And then we're going to fee model this to be attached to our input category. So what we're doing here is we're getting our input. We set a radio, and you can see it here, and we're going to set a category 1, business and input category. We don't need this ID, I don't think. Actually, I'm going to remove it. I'm taking a risk. If we need it, I'll take. We'll find out. We're going to then create a span called bubble, and as you can see, it's already there. It's styled because this is all in the CSS, and we're going to call this business because this is the business bubble. Now, underneath here, we're going to create this div and call it business. And there you go. We've got our business selector. Now, we can copy this, paste this underneath, change the value to personal, and change this also to personal. And finally, this business at the bottom to personal. Hit save, and you can see we have a array that's changing. And if we, sorry, not an array, a radio button that's changing. If we say input category underneath here, you can see it's set to, well, there you go. So we have business, personal, business, personal, business, personal. And you can see they just change depending on what you click, which is great. So let's just remove that as well. Now, underneath the options div, we're going to add in just a submit button here. So we're going to create an input of type submit, which is just going to have the value of add to do. And there you go. You can see we've got the button here. So that's great. We now have a form that can add a to-do, but the problem is the add to-do is empty. So what we need to do is actually add in some code here. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to check if our input content is .value.trim, just to make sure no one's just put a space in there, is equal to an empty string. So if it's equal to an empty string, that means no one's put any content in there. If it's just spaces like this, it will also remove those spaces. We're also going to check if our input category .value is equal to null. So basically, if we have nothing in there, if either one of these is true, so if this is empty or this isn't been selected, we're just going to return and we're not going to do anything. So if we hit add to do now, nothing happens. We can put a log past here saying add to do, just so we have, you can see if we hit this in our console, there is no add to do. But if we fill this in and say test and hit business and add to do, you can see add to do shows. If we just add spaces and do this, you can see add to do doesn't render again. Look, if I clear that, it does not. If I do a T here, you can see it does. So there you go. You can see that's how that works. So the next thing we want to do is we want to say todos.value.push, and we're going to push in some content, which is going to be input.content.value. We're then going to get our category value, and then we need to create that. This is actually going to be a new date.getTime. And the reason we use getTime is because this returns our date in milliseconds, which is what we're going to use to compare inside of our to-dos ascending. So once to-dos value push, that's good. We also need one more thing in here. It's going to be done, and we're going to set this to false, because by default nothing is going to be set to done, which is great. Now that should actually save every time we add a to-do. However, this is just going to add it to our to-dos array and not to our local storage. So we need to take the same method we use down here and change it up a bit. So we're going to say watch to-dos. We're going to say if there's a new value, what we're going to do is basically do the same as before. Local storage dot set item to-dos to do, JSON dot stringify new val. But this isn't going to work by default. So this is going to allow us to, once we first initially set our to-dos, this will work. However, this will not work when we push, because push is adding something inside of it. The only way to call a watch is to completely change the to-dos value by doing something such as to-dos.value is equal to and whatever you want. Now to combat that, you can actually pass some options in here, and one of the options is called deep, and we can set this to true. So what deep means is it's going to look through everything. It's going to look through each individual array item element in here, and then if any of it changes, so if anything changes inside of this, deep will catch it, and then we'll call this function again. So let's just hit save, and let's just try this out. Let's just say make a video. Let's set it to business and hit add to do, and we get an issue. Date.getTime is not a constructor. I need to pass in parentheses there because I'm calling a date. Let's refresh this and let's try this one more time. Let's say make a video, question mark, oh, just not question mark, business, add to do, and then nothing happened, right? But if we go to our application, you can see we now have to-dos in here. Let's say we add another one, make a, let's say get lunch, and set this to personal, add to do. You can see we now have a second item here. We have our make a video and our get lunch. Now, just because I want to test this, inside of underneath the bottom here, let's just dump out our to-dos ASC, because I want to see which way. So make a video is first and get lunch is last. So I think that means this needs to be B and this needs to be A. Oh, also, we're not going to have anything there because our creator that is not we're not pulling our to-dos. So this now, our to-dos array is actually empty. So to fix that, in onMounted, we want to say to-dos.value is equal to JSON.parse, because we stringified it originally. And then we're going to get item to-dos. Otherwise, we're going to, that should just be a plain array. Actually, this can be removed, and if that comes back for nothing, we'll just pass in an array. And there you go. So you can see get lunch is now first rather than last, because we made the get lunch after. So if we added a new one to this, let's say just test a business one, and you can see test becomes first, which is exactly what we want, because if we change this to to-dos, you'll see test should swap to last. Or not. Maybe not. Or maybe I'm doing this completely wrong in my head, but hopefully that works. So if we change these around, it seems to work fine. Make a video was our last one, which is fine. That means B minus A, save is correct. It must mean the to-dos is just being pulled back in the correct order, which is fine. This is actually still working if it does end up being in the wrong order, which is fine. That's good. Okay, so now we've got that working, we have one more section to do, which is actually listing the to-dos out. So underneath this section, we want to create a new to-do -list section. we want to create a h3, which is just going to say to-do list. There you go. And underneath this, we want to say diff.list. Now in here, we want to have a diff. This is going to have a v4 attached to it. We're going to say for every to-do inside of to-dos ascending, we're then going to pass through a class bounds. We're going to pass these template strings, and we're going to say to-do-item. So you can see there's 3 items in our list, and now we've got these blank boxes there. And we're going to check if to-do.done, if that's so, we're going to pass this and method here, and we're just going to pass back done. And that will basically set this to done if the to-do is actually set to done. So underneath here, we just want to say, we want to add in a label with nothing in. And inside the label, we want to say input of checkbox. We do not need a name or a ID. However, we do need a fee model set to to-do.done. Now underneath this, we want a span with the class of bubble. Again, we're going to bind it and use these template literals here, and we're going to pass in a $sign. I'm going to break this down. I'm going to say to-do.category. Oops, oh god. To-do.category. If it's equal to business, then we're going to pass through. Let me just close this as well because it's going to error out. So we're going to pass through business. Otherwise, we're going to pass through personal. And I have just realized we don't even need to do any of this because this will either be business or personal. So all we need to do is pass through to-do.category. So I just went to write all that out to do a ternary operator when I didn't need to. And there you go. You can see we have these checkboxes we can check. And if I check them and refresh, you can see it's actually saved because now get lunch is set to true. If we untick that, you'll see get lunch is now done false. So that's basically showing that's working. We then want a to-do content diff. Let's scroll down there. And inside this to-do content, we want to pass an input, which is a type text, with the model being our to-do.content. Save. And there you go. We now have this here, and we can actually update this. So test could be test a ad. I don't know. Test an ad. An ad. Get your grammar right there, Tyler. There you go. Test an ad. And there you go. You can see it's actually updated inside of our local storage. If we refresh, it actually is saved, which is good. We can close that now because I think you've got the point of local storage and how it works. Now underneath this, we just want actions, and inside of here, we just need one button. We originally had 2 buttons, one with an edit button, one with a delete. However, we can actually just update this whenever we want by just typing in here now rather than having an edit button that does it for you. So we're just going to change this button to say delete. This will also have the class of delete, and we're going to have a click event. Now this is going to say remove to do, and we are going to pass through the to do we want to remove. Now this isn't going to work because we do not have this function. So let's go up here and underneath add to do, let's create a constant called remove to do, which is going to be equal to a arrow function, and we're going to say todos.value is equal to todos.value.filter. We're going to get the current we're going to loop through every single to do in there, and we're going to check if it's not equal to do, then we're going to add it back to array. If it is equal to the to do, then we're not going to add it back, and this will return false, and then it will only have the ones we don't want. Oh, I've just created a new tab. That's fine. Refresh. And now let's just delete test and add, right? So let's just delete it. And there you go. You can see that works. So that is everything actually working in this tutorial. So now we can add a new to-do. Let's say complete or edit this video. Well, I'm going to have to do that. So let's hit our business, add to do, edit this video is now at top because it was the last one we added. And then we can get our lunch, make a video. And let's just say we've done our lunch, we've made the video, we just need to edit this now. There you go. Let's say we just want to delete the lunch, and there you go. You can see that's all working really great. Now one thing I have noticed is this is still filled out, and we kind of want to reset that. So how we do that is we're going to say input content.value is equal to an empty string, and input.category value is equal to null. Now, every time we submit a new one, let's say make pizza, because that's a fun thing to do. Add to do, you can see that is reset, and that's a lot better. So there you go, you can see that is working, and that is really nice. So we can tick this off, we can tick this one off, delete them, and everything is working. So guys, if you learned something new, do not forget to leave a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button if you want to see more, and don't forget to leave a comment if you have any questions. If you're new around here, you can always jump in our Discord description down, or Discord, we're in the description down below, and ask any questions in our help channels if you get stuck, or just join the community and have some fun. Also, we have memberships on this channel, so if you are a long-term person who's been watching these videos for a while and you want to support me on my channel, please consider looking at the memberships. Just click the join, have a look at the perks you can get by looking at those, and then hopefully if that's something that you want, you can actually click on it and support the channel and get some perks as well. But for now guys, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.